I'm James Loveday, circus extraordinaire, choreographer and director.
I basically ended up in the circus by accident. I'd done theatre, live theatre, I'd done film, acting, and I'd done a lot of street performance, and I happened to be travelling through Central Australia and bumped into some circus people, went to an open class of theirs, and they basically offered me a job because the skill that I had, no one else had, and that was a skill more for direction and choreographic. My students keep me excited, basically because I'm the only person in Townsville who kind of does what I do. Sometimes I'm not very excited by what I do, but every so often you'll see a student that gets a new trick or you form a new piece and it kind of just reforms that love for it. I had a little bit to do with the circus education program. I did some of their training and I really like that form of social circus and circus with a social outcome within the teaching and within the performance style. I will go anywhere and teach anybody from, I really like directing high-level circus performers, but I also have a love of working with disabilities, working in mental health. I have a background in that area as well, within being a carer and a support worker and basically organising programs like that. I really like working in Indigenous culture. I think for my art form to work, I need to be giving as much to the community as possible because it's a platform where anyone can access it. You can be in a wheelchair and you may have no use of anybody except for one arm, but there's always a skill that I can teach them with that one arm. So I try to give as much back to the community as possible. One of the disadvantages is that when it comes to applying for money for shows or projects, stuff like that, the amount of money you can apply for as a youth is not as much as what they see for an adult. The advantage is that you're young, you're vibrant, and people really see your charisma within it, and they see that you're very, very fresh, and they want to kind of nurture that. I'm with a bigger organisation. When it comes to funding, I am once very, very lucky because La Luna supports me with the funding. We have funding which runs our company. I think funding really, really helps. Without funding even for the communities and stuff I work on, a lot of them would just a lot of the kids that I work with would not have any access to what I do. I basically sell myself constantly, and that's how I've got the art form in Townsville, is by just saying, I'm James Loveday, this is what I do, this is what I can do for you, performance-wise, tutor-wise, anything like that. I'm hoping one day to move on to maybe a professional performance company or to structure a company which just deals with taking performers and workshops to small communities. I really like working in Indigenous communities, working out in the country. I'm in Townsville at the moment within circus. We've got to a bit of a stalemate. We've got as far as we can go without taking ourselves off the ground. We need riggers. Quite often riggers are a bit worried about hanging people. It's very, very different to hanging a pylon or hanging something on a crane, and I understand that. Where someone down south might have a love of rigging and they might have a love for the arts, so they're quite willing to band those two together. It's just finding the right person for the job. In a smaller area, you've got a lot less people to choose from. So hopefully one day we'll find the right person and it'll all happen.
Hey, I'm Manuel Flores and I'm a dancer. My styles are contemporary and hip-hop.
I was about 5. My mum was teaching me how to do Latin style, which was the regatta side, so feel the music, dance to it, move your feet to it, unlike here where you actually learn by steps. So that's how I really got started. Came here and I started to take on hip-hop because it was missing. In El Salvador, Central America, there is dance, but there's no as in schools. It's more about you learn as you go, learn if you go to the clubs or parties, or learn through family. And there's no artistic opportunity there. People actually travel to the States to actually gain some more knowledge and go somewhere in life with it. So yes, there is a lot more opportunities here. I love hip-hop because it's different. It doesn't matter about tricks, doesn't matter about the technique, it's all about what the performer puts out there. I admire the dance north dancers, especially the ones that have a bit of a hip-hop background. You also have your smaller performers here that are not very recognised, like for example, James Loveday, based here in Townsville as well. He does the circus side of things, and as far as I know, no one else does that. Advantages, it's once you start, and once you know where you're going, it's really good, because you can do your own thing. You don't have to be there with a teacher saying, alright, this is what you gotta do. This step comes after this. It's more about, they play the music, you do what you do to it, so you just feel the rhythm. The disadvantages are that you don't know where you want to go, you don't know how to start, you don't know where to look. You need someone out there telling you, especially for hip hop. You can't just pick up the yellow pages or the white pages or anything and go hip hop dance classes. There's also programs out here as well in Townsville that if you have some sort of idea, the government does give a bit of funding, but it's one of those things that you gotta apply for and see who the winner is. Well, I'm with Extension's Youth Dance Company based here in Townsville, so Carly Ball is the director. She is starting to add my creativity and my hip hop styles to the company, which is really good. I want to see myself going down to UDC in Sydney, in Australia. I want to do a set full in dance. So they do a whole year program there to teach you whatever style you want to learn. So I want to go and study contemporary breakdancing and hip hop there, and hopefully come back here and whatever I learn, teach it out to the community. What I really want to see is a lot more boys and teenagers in there. I went to an all-boys school, and as soon as you mention dance, everyone thinks skirts, ballet shoes and everything. But yeah, hip-hop is definitely a big stepping stone to getting young boys or teenage boys into the dance side of things. Expanding your knowledge in the genres or skills is never a bad thing.
Hello, my name's Lillian Mendy and I am an acting tutor.
I went to high school, started doing theatre, and from there I just knew that I wanted to go into theatre and went to university and studied theatre, and now I'm here at Luna Arts as a assistant acting tutor. I find it's more interesting to teach theatre and give children the opportunity to accept who they are and accept who other people are. You have quite a few theatre companies in Townsville that can support an actor, but if you really want to be a professional, they all ask you to go down south. They say that's where the acting role is. So up in North Queensland it's quite hard to find a well-off actor. So this would be classed as a start in North Queensland, but if you really want to go somewhere to be a professional actor that's getting paid quite a lot of money, and if you want to go into film, you'd go down south and even overseas. I believe the barriers that are stopping people from getting into the creative arts are more people lack confidence. So there's so many pressures out there to become more, to actually get into the industry. Say for instance, the business side of creativity. I think more associations in the art world and more community-based artistic creative industry areas around Townsville. I believe that if that it was to happen, you'd find a lot more people coming to these areas to know more about the industry, and it would help the art industry flourish because they know where to go. In terms of teaching, I believe I will stay in the teaching sector. It's a safer area for artists that have come from the creative industry. As an actor, it's quite hard to find roles and constantly find roles, and I think that that's a safe move. In 10 years' time, I believe I would like to be teaching secondary education for theatre and also working with community-based theatre tutorial workshops. For actors to stay in this region, we need more tutors or lecturers to come and teach in North Queensland. If we had more resource and more professionals that are willing to teach in North Queensland, it would give others a reason to stay in North Queensland.
My name's Kelly Morgan and I'm a photographer.
Well, I've always
been interested, like even as a kid, I've always been interested in photos and still images and artwork. I think my big step into photography was my SLR, which I got in grade 11, so I would have been about 16. University is a big step like to getting into the real world because I'm learning different things. I'm learning how to use continuous lighting and aperture and shutter speed and everything that's like you need to know for photography. Different kinds of art, so performing arts and dancing and things like that, taking photos and something different than just taking photo of like, you know, plants and animals and things. I work with like lots of different things, so like I like to photograph babies and children because they're not just gonna sit there and pose, they're going to run amok. I'd like to do, Tony Mott is a big rock photographer. I'd like to do a lot of that sort of thing, concerts and that. So it's not posed photographs, because I hate posed photographs. I'd say that people in the community help me, I don't know, that one step to doing what I want to do and achieving my goal. Disadvantages would be a lot of people just see you as like a young person and they're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Advantages would be a lot of people know who I am because I'm young and I really want to do this. So a lot of people see me out there taking photos everywhere. I definitely think more promotion and, you know, workshops so people know what, you know, grants are and what could help them as well. Like, I think that's why a lot of people don't push their studies and push their work out into the community because they're not sure about grants. Facebook's a big one because everyone has Facebook, everyone sees Facebook. Posters and, you know, putting things on the internet. So I've got a small website which I use sometimes. I want to go into photojournalism to start off with, and that way a lot of people see your work because it's newspapers and different types of paper and that. More equipment I think is a really big thing to get young artists to keep going and keep trying to achieve their goals. Like, if you don't go to university, where are you going to find a studio and lighting and all this other stuff? Like, it ends up being very hard in the long run, but if you really want it, you try and you find these things.
There are some hardships out there, but like you can always, there's always an obstacle, you can always get around it or over it somehow.